Welcome to Rooted and Rising, a soulful podcast hosted by Dr. Cheri and Ellice Boone. Join the conversation as Dr. Cheri and Ellice explore the transformative power of holistic healing from the inside out. Together, they guide listeners through the deep work of reconnecting with their roots, uncovering the unconscious wounds that shape us, and rising into the fullness of our higher selves. So please, welcome the hosts of Rooted and Rising, Dr. Cheri and Ellice Boone.
Hi, Dr. Cheri here, and I'm here with my co-host Ellice Boone today. As we come together, I would like to offer an invitation. Maybe not to do more, not to do harder. Let's just take a pause as we reflect. Welcome to Rooted and Rising. I want to ask you something. What if the thing you've been searching for your entire life was never missing, yet actually waiting for you to remember? Over the past few episodes and the common themes that we've explored, we've talked about grief, we've talked about healing, non-ordinary states, trauma work, psychedelic assisted therapy, somatic experiences. But today we're going to talk about true healing, not substances, not techniques. We're going to talk about what actually heals, because healing doesn't always involve intensity alone. It comes from the pause, safety, integration, and remembering who has always and what has always and when has always and how has always been true beneath the fear.
Thank you, Dr. Cheri. So thanks for introducing this. I feel like this topic is really apropos for me today as we've talked and I'm moving through some really deep work, some intense emotional work in my personal life. And here we are kind of coming through to this theme on being gentle and taking a pause and allowing space for safety, feeling safe in our bodies so that we can allow healing, allow remembering. So yes, thank you for joining us. This is Rooted and Rising. We're always exploring different topics on healing. And really what our goal is in the show is to ground you deeply into who you are. And that way you can really rise into who you're becoming. So today's episode, we titled it Seeking to Remembering. So stopping the seeking and this action forward and coming back to a place of slowing down, pausing, and remembering. And with that, I actually wanted to start us off with one of our guided meditations. So if it feels good for you and you're in a place where you can be alone and have some privacy for just a few minutes, I want to invite you to get comfortable in your seat. And what you're going to do here, if it feels comfortable for you, is go ahead and close your eyes and start with taking a big, deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. As you continue to take a deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth, allow your body to become very still. Allow your shoulders to drop and soften. And just let the efforting ease for a moment. You don't need to arrive anywhere in this moment. You are already here. Taking another deep breath in through the nose and a slow breath out through the mouth. And now I'd like to see if you can gently notice, without judgment, if there's any part of you that is seeking right now. Is there a part of you that is seeking clarity, seeking healing, seeking answers, or seeking love. Again, you don't need to judge this part, just notice as you breathe. And now I'd like to invite you to imagine that part of you that's seeking, if there is something there. And if you don't notice the seeking, imagine anything in your body that might feel a little bit heavy in this moment. And now with your mind's eye, imagine setting down whatever it is that you've been reaching for. Setting down whatever it is that feels heavy, just for this moment. Letting yourself know that there's nothing to fix, there's nothing to solve, there's nothing to do right now. Allowing yourself to sink into that. And again, a deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. And now I'll ask that you place one hand over your heart if that feels supportive. And say to yourself now, I don't need to search. I don't need to effort. I can rest in this moment. Allowing your breath to find its own rhythm here. And just noticing the rise and fall of your chest. And now imagine a warmth beneath your hand, maybe a glowing light, something steady, soft, familiar. It's not something new. It's not something you have to earn or to strive for. It's just a feeling that's always been here. And with your next breath in, say to yourself, what I am looking for is already within me. Breathing in deeply through the nose, breathing out slowly through the mouth. Notice any subtle shifts in your body as you stop reaching and just allow yourself to settle here. Perhaps there's some spaciousness. Perhaps there's a softening. And maybe there's no change at all, and that's okay. There's no right experience here. Just an allowance of yourself and a gentle resting of your awareness on your breath. Allow yourself here just a moment to remember. Remember not with your mind, but allow your body to remember what it's like to be in stillness, what it's like to breathe the breath that you breathe in and out. Taking one more moment here for a final breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Being slow and gentle in this place, and when you feel ready, coming back into your body and your senses, hopefully carrying this sense of peace and rest with you for the rest of your day. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Beautiful. Beautiful. That's all I can say is beautiful. Thank you so much. We don't go over these, quiet guided, and meditations. And so it's like, okay, the show's done. You gave us that was so beautiful. And a couple things I think would be good to note for a moment is if that was difficult, be curious about that, because as we talked about, or even our last podcast, that sometimes, when trauma is still so active in our body and present, even unconsciously, breath alone may be difficult, let alone stillness. And so just be curious about it. And this would be a great a great journaling moment to kind of explore what came up, because what came up is perfect, in this moment. And so that's important. And then personally, I experienced how for me, how connected I was with my breath. And I can't say that's all the time. Different stages where I would have difficulty, like breathing in and feeling my diaphragm versus squishing my diaphragm, and then breathing out and puffing my diaphragm, and rather than releasing. So there was a fight. It's contradictory, and so I thought that was really interesting. And so I felt like this rhythm that was so natural and so beautiful and wonderful. So thank you, Ellice. That was beautiful.
Thank you, Cheri. I love how you're such an active participant and sharing how things feel for you each meditation. It's wonderful to get that feedback, and I love being able to do it. I hope our listeners at home are taking a moment for themselves as well. I think this is a big part of what we want to offer in this podcast, is just a moment to pause. And I know we have a break coming up, but we have a lot of good, juicy stuff to go over when we get back. So we'll go take our break, and we'll be back with a lot more after this.
Mike Zorek, a three-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a six-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2/3, and 2/4. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorek, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorek has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk.
Welcome back to Rooted and Rising. Again, I'm here with my co-host. This is Dr. Cheri, and I'm here with my co-host, Ellice Boone. And we just had a wonderful segment, Ellice, in a meditation to reflect. And I hope we're all in that place to pause, to experience presence, and without effort or strain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Cheri. So we wanted to dive into a little bit more today around this topic of seeking, remembering, and what real healing really looks like. I know in our conversations before we had chatted about ketamine-assisted therapy, which you offer. We also talked about other forms of medicine work. And just when you see clients after they've had some sort of therapeutic experience, are there things that stood out to you from those clients' experiences that have given you, I guess you could say, more of, just basically what has stood out to you personally, clinically?
What stands out, to me the most is through this work is that, the healing is really never about the medicine or, you know, even the techniques. These are tools, great tools, all across, you know, the frameworks of science, neuroscience, physics, our non-dual, you know, spirituality, mysticism. The language changes, you know, but the destination never does. And where every road leads for healing is love. Now, that can sound romantic and maybe Pollyanna and, magical. However, when we really understand the power of love, the concept it is, not even what it represents, you know, how it really is the core of who we all are, it's not those things. You know, clinically, I work with ketamine, and I don't see people when they come in searching for a miracle. Usually, when they're coming in, unfortunately, a lot of times when people come in for ketamine, they've tried numerous therapies. I say unfortunately because it's not unfortunately had all those therapies, but it's unfortunate that they've searched for so long to find an answer outside in sometimes and not inside out. And so, what I see are people longing for relief from fear. And I see fear as the opposite of love. So, um, um, however, even though it's the opposite, the love has never been absent. It's not outside of us, it's inside of us, but it's been buried with beneath the need to survive.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense. So, in essence, what you're saying here is that whatever traumas or things people have experienced, they've created these patterns to survive. And most of that is probably pretty rooted in fear. And that fear is basically what's blocking them from accessing love within them, which is always present. It's just blocked in some way. Yeah,
Yes,
fascinating.
exactly.
Okay. I love that. So, I mean, how do we come back to this? How do we get to a place where we feel that we can access love again? I think that's where we want to get into next. I mean, you're almost saying that love isn't something that we have to attain or like strive for or reach for, but if we can allow fear to subside, then we can gain access to that place within us. Does that sound right?
Right. When we can work through the fear, you know,
Hmm.
subside. Sometimes if we use that word, we'll repress, you know, and suppress. And so if we can, you know, recognizing we're going to walk through the fear as an aspect of getting to remembering the love that we are. And so, because love is who we are, that it versus us having love for ourselves. I think there's a difference. And I think it's more the somatics, even though it may just sound like somatics. Love isn't, you know, healing isn't about adding something to who we are. It's about removing what blocks remembering. Love isn't something we reach for, you know, it's something that we kind of fall back into, you know, when fear releases its grip on us, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just a beautiful way to describe it. And I can picture that. And I'm sitting here thinking that point that you said that love isn't something that we're reaching for, but something that's always there. It seems like in our society, it's something that we constantly feel that we have to strive for, we have to earn, we have to receive from sources outside of us. But I also liked how you said that love is us. That little change of words. We are love. It's not just about self-love, but we are love. I wonder if there anything else there to expand on that at all. I'm trying to grasp this concept personally.
You know, to be honest, I think we all are. Having struggled to grasp this concept doesn't make it less true.
Mhm.
And I think it's an evolution that we're all striving for. And when we do, you know, just as in your meditation that you walked us through, quiet down and really tap into our breath. And I love that, you know, putting our hand on our heart. And I saw, you know, at first I saw, you know, I thought, okay, color. I saw this which surprised me, but a light violet, kind of lavender violet. Then I saw green. Then I felt like then I saw rainbow colors. Like it wasn't one color, and it just felt so beautiful. And then feel the own energy from my hand, going through my being. The world didn't exist in that moment outside of me. It was just all so pleasant. And that little bit can be love, a start of it, but it grows beyond that. And we all have our own experience, but we know it. We know it when it's there. And so that may be the best way I can, explain it.
Yeah, no, I think that was a beautiful explanation. It's the quieting down, it's the allowing for those moments. And we'll go more into this later in the podcast, but also creating a place where you do feel safe to do that. And when you've experienced trauma, like you mentioned after the meditation, just being still might not feel safe to you. So there are steps, to get to that place of safety in your body where you can really let go and you can really access those places. Another question I had written down for you, Cheri, was this piece about how you say that trauma isn't just healed through insight. And that's another way that we kind of try to, I guess, intellectualize our way through a situation. I actually have this problem. I'll sit here and think, oh, I'm going through this experience, but I know all of the tools and I know all of the answers, so I am fixed. But it doesn't really work like that, right? So can you tell us more about what this is for you, what this means to you, that trauma isn't healed just through insight or knowledge?
I think that if we can remember, and we talked about this in the past too, is, if we essentially have three brains in our body. We have our gut, and that's supposed to be the most the smartest part of our brain, if you can, the most intellectual. And then we have our heart brain, which science says is 5,000 magnitude of, magnetic force than our head brain. And then we have our head brain. And so when we intellectualize things, it's good to understand and it's good to process. It's a beginning step, but also it can be a way to put a barrier between what we know and experientially what's going on with us and the memory, whether it's love or trauma. Both live in the body. And when we experience trauma, as it lives in the body, it can often be an experience before language, before story, before meaning. We've been taught, science is showing now, it can be ancestral, passed down through the DNA. And so for healing to happen, it has to reach our nervous system, and it has to be experienced, not just understood. The healing, walking through the trauma in a safe set and setting space, and the healing journey through that allows us to revisit that trauma to whatever experience, whatever we need to for healing. We obviously don't go get re-traumatized. We experience what the body is storing so that we can walk through it and release it. What's striking about, I wish I learned and really grasped this a long time ago, but the medicine assisted experiences that are being that people are having and are being documented are showing how somatic they are. How our identity, when our identity softens, boundaries dissolve, because all those boundaries are self-made to thinking protecting us and causing the trauma to get stuck in our body, and that is not natural for things to get stuck. We're meant to flow. It's like the water. We're what, 75% of water. Our bodies are supposed to be flowing and generating all the time, and when the trauma gets stuck in pieces of our body, then our body's at dis-ease, and emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually. And so fear, as fear gives away to something vast and deeply familiar, like love, it's healing. A trauma-informed lens matters so the body can remember long before the mind can explain it, and then we can tap into those and link those together. And then we can go revisit, okay, where am I with the heart? And where am I now? What is my knowledge? and a wisdom opens up. And that's where I talk about the inner healing intelligence. It's the wisdom in us. And that's where the healing from the inside out percolates and begins. And but we have to make space for this.
Yeah. Wow, that was great. Thank you. And I just love that the three brains. I don't think I've heard you say that before, but imagining that things, when we're intellectualizing, stop at this brain, and then we haven't made it down to the heart and the gut, our other two brains where we need to process things and we feel emotion, where things can get locked and stored in our body. So that is a really important piece. Okay, we have another break, and then we're going to dive into some other parts of this. So we'll see you back after this break.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Hi, welcome back to Rooted and Rising. We've been talking about love and fear, and how our love is really the core of our healing, and how fear can bury us alive. I hope it's not too opposing, Ellice, but at the beginning of the show, you said that you shared that you've been going through your own experience recently, and the little bit we shared, I feel like if you feel comfortable, it would be so wonderful for you to share in real time how this, what you're experiencing and what we're talking about could apply.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. I do feel open to sharing just a little bit about it. I think it applies so well, and honestly could be helpful for other people going through something similar. I was moving through some repressed memories, and it was very shocking when it came up, and it was surrounding a sexual assault. And I realized as the memories came up that I was feeling them in my body more than remembering a visual. And the evening that most of it was starting to really come back, I was up all night just in this almost place of like, as if I was on 300 cups of espresso, just so alert, so aware. And I realized after that was probably my body being in that fight or flight state, like I was at risk. And I felt sick, like I wanted to purge something out of my body. I felt shaky, like everything in my whole body was shaking. And this somatic response that I had was so intense, especially that night. And it's kind of gone through in waves since then, that I was really blown away, because I thought something, I've had clients who have gone through different traumatic experiences. I've had clients who have shared about their body symptoms from trauma. And I've witnessed, things coming up and out through shaking and somatic things. But going through it myself in a moment where it felt out of my control, it was really awful and shocking, and also fascinating because of the work that we do. And it just went to show me that it doesn't matter how much knowledge I have in my mind around healing, around this work, or how much healing I've done in the past, that this had to come through my body. I had to release this in a somatic way for it to leave me. And there was no way around that. And so I actually worked with a woman who specializes in sexual trauma and somatic work. And she was absolutely incredible with kind of moving that energy up and out. There was a lot of shaking. There was a lot of, noise making and humming. this can look so different for everyone. And I know after talking with her that there are many different ways to do the work that she does. But the end was she created a container for me to just really let go and feel safe enough to let these things come out of me instead of continuing to hold them. And that after that session, I felt so much lighter, as if, I don't know, weight that had been just on me for so long that I didn't even know about had just been lifted. So, like you said, it's something that you experience. It's not always something that you just have to go find the information about. It really is creating a safe space in your body where you can let go, get in touch with what is there. And if that needs to move in some way, if it's something having to do with a trauma, how do we let that go and get through it and feel safe enough to feel it so that we can let it dissipate? So that was my personal experience, which was very recent and very raw, but also so profound. After experiencing many types of alternative medicines in my life and doing so much of this work personally, this was no medicine, no searching. It truly was just being in a moment and allowing what needed to come out to express itself. So I think it does really apply to what we're speaking of here in this container of safety and how important that is.
That's beautiful. I really appreciate you sharing that, and the courage, as you know, especially when we're in it. We're still in the midst of it, and I respect you highly for that. I love that the proactive nature and peace that you offered yourself, which I think is a language of love. And that is, you recognize, you just listened to your body and you recognized, okay, this is just a bad night's sleep. And you didn't try to dismiss it. And you leaned in with curiosity. And I talk about curiosity a lot. And it's it takes courage to be curious. And it's easier to, we're kind of conditioned to dismiss and then just ruminate about the fear, about the sleepless night, not about, what's my body sharing with me? What does this mean? I didn't have 36 cups of espresso, so how come I'm, experiencing this? And because we know, meaning making is just a part of the integration, and it's not the medicine. And the medicine was honoring yourself. The medicine is then creating a safety to meet your truth and to reach out and ask for help, the kind of help that you needed, and work through. And I just love how you shared how your body processed that trauma. They say animals, they do that. Animals will, if they experience a trauma, they'll just like shake it off like a seizure. They'll shake, their whole body will fall down and they'll just shake and they'll pop back up and go on with life. They don't carry it forward. And that's such an intelligence, and a strength that, not that our intelligence is less, that processing through it is really powerful and good. And we get the golden nuggets to continue growing in the ways that we need to grow to live life and to be part of life and be present in life. And I think everything happens like it should. And so for you to be able to, even this step, I want to tell you, when we're done with this podcast, to take care of yourself, because just sharing it can be triggering, and it can become a little delayed. And so go, and I know you love nature, go stand out in some dirt, go among your trees and take some breath and let a little bit of sunshine, warm you up. That would be really wonderful. And tap into even the mindful meditation you gave us today. Gift it to yourself so you can really feel your love in your heart. I hope you do that for yourself. Healing doesn't happen just when our mind understands. It's when our body feels safe enough to go to it. So thank you.
Yeah, you had said that to me earlier in the week when I had shared more of what was going on in my personal life in this moment. And that really struck me. You said, I think that you're in a place where you felt safe enough and your body finally felt safe enough for this memory to come up and for your body to let all of this go. And that hit deeply because I do agree with that. I do feel that I was at that place and here it is. And I'm strong enough to move through it. So yeah, it's just yeah, it will be interesting after the show if I feel, why did I share that? But at the same time, it's just a part of my story. There's been so much already, and this is just another chapter. And I hope that people to this will find inspiration to seek out time to touch in with themselves and whatever's going on underneath. Not that I want anyone to experience a repressed memory, but more so that people can get in touch with whatever it is that they're holding, memories that are real and that they know and have in their mind and body that they're carrying around as this added weight with them. How can we touch into that and find this love, find the safety, find the things that are beneath fear of what we're holding. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I absolutely, I think just as you're sharing, healing comes from containment. Set and setting aren't logistics. We just can't, just make it happen. They're a sacred container. To explain, set includes, attachment, our attachment history, our trauma imprints, our spiritual conditioning, and our nervous system capacity. For you, the nervous system woke up, and they're screaming at you actually, and then those imprints started showing up. And so I think so what it tells me is you had the setting, the relational safety, the pacing, just as you share your story, the reverence. I think that is really important. Sometimes we overlook reverence, but even when you talked about your story earlier this week, there's such a reverence about it and the impact, not just on you, but members around you, and a very conscientious of all involved. And then the integration, it's like, I got to do this integration, I need it, I can't just, it's time to do it. And so, and so the other thing I want to point out, it's yours, sharing your story. It could seem like 1, 2, 3 step. And like you said, everyone's different and everyone's at a different place. And so from a trauma lens, at times, just like with our breath, I said, love can feel overwhelming if the system isn't ready to receive it. And that doesn't mean you're unlovable. It just means, and doesn't mean that you're too fearful. It just means it's not time yet. Unity can feel annihilation. Surrender can feel loss of control. And these are just feelings, and these are just tells you where you're on in the journey. That's all it is. It's information. It's golden information, because we need to know where we're at in our readiness. You're ready. Our readiness to process through it. And it's like peeling an onion, one layer at a time. And we need to be patient, because out of small steps come great leaps and great, destinations. So if we could just remember, this is the beauty of it. And this is where the thread of the love is in the tapestry. We're always held. And so, I hope you feel held, and a big hug from me. And
yeah, thank you. Oh, well, looks like we have another break, but we'll come back after this and talk a little bit more. Thank you, Cheri.
That's great.
Master of words, powerful player. What life-changing words can Dr. Janet Smith Warfield pull out of her magical toolbox that just might mysteriously open a door you never knew was there? A door to free yourself from fear forever. Transform your rage into right action. Release your guilt. Position you into a life of freedom, purpose, passion, power, and peace. All quite suddenly, unexpectedly, and almost miraculously, with no effort on your part. Join Dr. Janet on Dancing with Words, Dancing with Wisdom, as she and her guests show you how words map our experiences, immersing you in a sound bath that relaxes your muscles, opens your mind, and supports you in co-creating your extraordinary life. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness: Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals.
Hi, welcome back to Rooted and Rising. I'm Ellice Boone, and I'm here with Dr. Cheri, and we've been talking about a lot of deep stuff today. Thanks for holding that space for me, Cheri. Not only on the podcast today, as I shared that story, which is definitely vulnerable, but also, in our lives. I really appreciate it. I think it's a good place to continue the talk and just see if there was anything else you wanted to add about this piece of safety and how to make sure that we're not being re-traumatized as we're seeking healing, but that we really do have a space of safety in our mind and in our bodies.
Yes. Like I said before, sometimes something like benevolent can re-traumatize us, when we don't have the safety. And so, yes, this is a whole foundation of my holistic integral therapy HIT, which I like to call it. We say, miracle and safety are inseparable. The miracle comes from healing inside out. But the key here is to recognize that we are love, and love is not meant to be survived. If it feels that way, it's just, that is the trauma itself. And we talked about how trauma is sometimes before we have any cognitive development, let alone put words to it, even after we have cognitive development. So love is meant to be received, and we talk a lot about how to be giving, and a lot of people think I'm encourage people to be self-centered and selfish. I'm not, but if we can only give what we have. So when we stop and we gift to ourselves first, we tap in and love ourselves first, then our bucket starts getting filled up. And we're meant to have full buckets all the time. And then we're meant to overflow our buckets. And the overflow is what we gift away. And we're not to hoard. We want to give all that away, but we have to fill the bucket to have an overflow to give away. And so this is why so I'll send you a hug, but I encourage people all the time to stop and just give themselves a hug. The hug, when we cross our hands over our chest, it calms the nervous system. It speaks to the nervous system. It sends love to the nervous system. Then we also get to feel our touch. We give our touch to people all the time, our loved ones. One of the first things we do is touch them. But do we even know what our own touch feels like? That's our love language. And so it doesn't take much. Even when you said you're working through your trauma and there's some humming, sound is beautiful. Our sound is beautiful. Is another love language, and so I encourage people to be patient and work to wait for receiving the love that's within.
Yeah, so beautiful. And along with the theme of not just seeking, but remembering, I think when it comes to situations like what I've just experienced, yes, I am taking action to get the support that I need, but also there's a piece in there of just being with what is alive in me in this moment. And sometimes that's all I can do is just create some time where I'm not with my daughter and I'm not with my husband and I'm not managing what it is I have going on in life, but I'm just alone with myself, out in nature, as you mentioned, because that's one of my safe places, and just sinking into what is here and allowing myself to find the joy, find the love, find the gratitude in those moments, or allowing myself to just cry and grieve and feel the pain of what the experience was and what that felt like, or the anger and the rage, whatever it is that is coming up, or a mixture of all of those things that can come at the same time, but just creating a place where I can take a moment to pause, not strive, not seek, not do, but just allow. I think that's incredibly valuable, and anyone can do that at any time. So it's accessible to all of us, which is the beautiful thing about it.
Yes, the most beautiful thing about it. We all have it. We all carry it. So Thank you.
Well, I know we might have to skip over some things that we had in our show because we took a little bit longer. But in this bit of time, I'm wondering, what direction do we want to go? You had mentioned a piece that sort of went along with our theme, which was kind of your relationship to God. And that piece, is that something you want to dive into now? Does that feel appropriate?
I feel like that we can that will go into the next episode really well. But basically, to simply say, that we know more than we know. So again, a lot of times we'll strive and try to search out, and it's all just about reflection and taking a moment to breathe and remember. It's all about remembering.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know one piece that I don't want to leave out of this show, because I think it's really important here, is the emphasis on community with healing. So we're talking about taking a lot of space and carving out that time for ourselves. But there's another piece, which is having community, having support, like you said, human to human connection. And that is healing. That is what we thrive under, is that connection, that physical touch with ourselves, with other humans, when it feels safe. And so, is there any more you want to share about the importance of community in this kind of work?
Well, the importance of community is we're relational beings. We come in this world to be with one another, and so it's everything. And we recognize the pandemic, which we're still coming out of. How diseasing isolation is, and how difficult when people are still struggling with coming out of isolation and remembering the value of community. And we can feel most vulnerable when we are re-experiencing healing through a trauma, and all of us are so more alike than different. And we can't know that. If we're not around others and sharing. And so you're sharing your story, Ellice, is a perfect example and a gift to all of us of how important, community is. We're your community. And that we can walk away and learn from you and glean from you is such a gift that you didn't have to share. And yet, hopefully, it'll be healing for you as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you so much. And I think what you said before, that trauma has a tendency to isolate, and love, reunites us. And I've found that in sharing my story, hearing other women's stories that are similar, it does make you feel less alone in what can feel very isolating. So it is so important to seek out people when you feel ready to share, if you have something to share, and realize that you're not alone, that we all have had experiences that we can relate to yours, you can relate to ours, and we can become beautiful medicine for each other. So it's really amazing to lean in on our community, even when it feels hard.
I think so too. And then part of that is, even for community, is when we take the time, which I want to give you some time to encourage a journal reflection, because after when we're in, healing ourselves and taking that time for ourselves, that's when we write. But then we have it to share with others if we want to as well. And we can go back and 3 weeks later, read what we wrote and see the experience of wisdom that we had in the moment of our story, and also our progress. So I'd love for you to share a journal reflection before we leave.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll be doing this with all of you listeners out there, because as you are aware now, I definitely need this just as much as you all do. So the journal reflections for this week, again, just take a moment to write. If you can, just write with your timer on. If you have a hard time writing, start slow. Start at 1-2 minutes, move up to 10 if you can, but just really allowing yourself to freely write. And if you like this prompt, you can ask yourself, where am I still seeking? And where am I still seeking something that may already live within me? And another prompt might be, what would it feel like to rest instead of strive? And lastly, where is love asking me to soften? So if you take a moment to journal this week, have some time there. And there's also a little weekly practice we wanted to add in here. Again, I'm going to be doing this as well with all of you listeners. This is so simple, similar to the meditation, but just placing one hand on your heart and taking 5 slow breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. And as you take those breaths, tell yourself on every inhale, I am held. Exhale, I am home. That's it, listeners. Thank you so much. Please like and subscribe to our podcast if you enjoyed the episode today and would like to stay tuned with us for more. And until next time, stay rooted
And keep on rising.
This has been Rooted and Rising with hosts Dr. Cheri and Ellice Boone. Through honest conversation, clinical insight, and creative reflection, Dr. Cheri and Ellice will empower you to reclaim your voice, your vitality, and your vision. This podcast is not about quick fixes. It's a return to deep knowing, gentle unraveling, and lifelong integration. Tune in each week, Wednesdays, 12 noon Eastern,